Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Luke Brown, you're watching France 24. We begin then with the French military offensive in Mali. After 4 days of bombing raids on the north of the country, French aircraft continue to pound Islamist positions. The aerial bombardments forcing the Islamists to abandon the recently conquered town of Konna, while heavy losses at their camps in the north, including the stronghold in Gao, have also been reported. Ahead of a debate in Parliament here in France, the French Prime Minister, Jean-Marc Ayrault, has outlined the priorities of the mission.
The first objective is to stop the offensive by terrorist groups. We have already stopped their advance in the east, and we are now focusing our efforts on the west of Mali. The second objective is to preserve the existence of the Malian state and to enable it to recover its territorial integrity and total sovereignty. The third objective is to prepare the deployment of the African Intervention Force, authorized on the 20th of December by the United Nations Security Council.
Since Friday, the French airborne assault has been judged to be effective, but Monday the Islamist fighters counterattacked in the west, seizing the small town of Diabali, bearing out warnings that the resistance could well prove fiercer than expected. Stephen Carroll has the details.
Ready for deployment, French jets on the ground in Bamako. After first helping government troops to recapture the town of Konna, their airstrikes have focused on locations in the rebel-held north, but they're also trying to stop the Islamists' advance south towards the capital.
To the west, the situation remains difficult. We have encountered groups that are heavily armed.
And it's there that the rebels have made gains, capturing the town of Diabali, another step closer to Bamako. They reached it by passing close to the border with Mauritania, which has now sent troops to its frontier in an effort to stop unauthorized crossings. According to regional security forces quoted by the AFP news agency, the attack was led by this man, Abu Said, one of the leaders of Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. ACME is just one of the Islamist groups which has threatened France over its involvement in this conflict.
France has attacked Islam. We are going to strike at the heart of France. In the name of Allah, we are going to strike the heart of France, everywhere, in Bamako, in Africa, and in Europe.
France's campaign is largely limited to air attacks for now, although the number of ground troops deployed there is set to rise from 600 to 2,500.
The United Nations Security Council met this Monday at the request of France to discuss the situation. The UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon has welcomed the French intervention. Now, France insists the priority is implementing UN Resolution 2085, meaning African forces should shoulder more responsibility.
The French initiative was a result of an emergency, that is to say, an offensive made by a terrorist group. But once the offensive is stopped, we must implement as quickly as possible Resolution 2085 in its full capacity, which is above all a negotiation process between the North and the South.
Now, about 6,000 French nationals live in Mali's capital, Bamako, and while the front line seems distant, unease is growing amongst the French expat community, especially with the Islamists promising retribution against French citizens.
The barrier outside the French lycée in Bamako is staying firmly down. There are usually around 1,000 students and teachers indoors, but it is now closed indefinitely. Several parents visited to inspect the premises with special forces belonging to the Gendarmerie's crack unit, the GIGN. They reviewed security arrangements, even if, at this point, all is calm.
We can get around freely. I'm driving, and I don't feel threatened at home or in public areas. Authorities are advising us to take care, which is only normal.
Current security efforts in the Malian capital aim to head off a terrorist attack or kidnapping. Security has been stepped up here at the French embassy, even though there is strong support among Malians for French intervention. Martinique-born Vivian Vincent has been living in Bamako for 15 years. Her restaurant has lost its French customers who are keeping their trips out to a minimum.
We are still in waiting mode. That fuels anxiety and uncertainty. You never know what could happen. Now that the military operation is underway, we are hoping that things will quickly fall into place.
The majority of France's 6,000 nationals in Bamako have chosen to stay in the city despite the uncertainty.